So
Hi.
I'm talking to Susan Statham, who's our former president of Spirit of the Hills and one of the primary organizers of the two contests we're currently running, and who also has two entries into the contest. Under the fine art category, you've got a oil painting, Angel in My Garden, and under fiction, you have Nailed, which is a short story. So we'll start with Angel in My Garden. In many ways, it's reminiscent for me of the Italian Renaissance period. Is that the sort of look that you were aiming for?
Yes, yeah, very astute of you on many levels for that painting. I went to the National Portrait Academy. It was a school in Toronto, and one of my instructors had been an apprentice to Pietro Annigoni, an Italian painter, who then taught us what he learned. So there was a lot of the Atelier method, the traditional art method, and this is a painting done with as an underpainting. You start as an underpainting and multiple glazes.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So it's difficult, I think, especially with this work, to get a real reading of what it's like when you're looking at a two-dimensional picture on a screen. For me, it was the luminous nature of the angel that stood out as this negative space. It took me a while to actually realize that the angel's not tethered to the ground. So it's the focus of attention is the face, and then you sort of look around, and then this negative space comes in, and it's like, oh, I get it. This is definitely angelic. The wings, I think, are more of a stereotype. Like, you just kind of archetype, rather, you just kind of pass that by, but the actual floating nature was interesting.
Well, the wings, I'll tell you, since you mentioned the wings, there's a bit of a funny story. Most renditions, I mean, obviously birds. I knew somebody who had a taxidermied owl, so I went to their house and took multiple pictures of their owl. That wasn't quite the look that I wanted. I looked at other things. I looked at other paintings of angels. Usually they've got these little tiny cheruby wings. That's not what I wanted. I was complaining about this to somebody, and she said, "What about Michael's wings?" And I thought, Michael? Oh, John Travolta, the movie. Okay. So I watched the movie, and I stopped the movie just at the point that John Travolta as Michael is getting a beer out of the refrigerator, and he stands up and holds the beer, which gave his wings a perfect shape for what I wanted. And that's where they come from.
Well, I would never have guessed that those were Travolta wings. No. So I'm wondering if this overall impression of luminosity is something that's easier to achieve in this medium, the oil medium, rather than acrylic, or obviously I don't think you can do it in watercolor, but is it easier in oil to do this kind of thing, do you think?
Yes, definitely. And as a painting that is done with an underpainting, the white of the angel's robe and the wings, I use an oily egg tempera. It's quite impasto. It's the way the light refracts, it immediately bounces back. So then on top of that white oily egg tempera goes, it's just pigment added to oily egg tempera. And then I put glaze after glaze of oil paint with little bits of color in it. And
wow.
To get that.
Okay, so how long did it take to do that work?
Oh, golly.
Now you make me
many hours.
I bet.
On average, something like that's about 80 hours, maybe more.
Wow. Yeah. And elapsed time?
What's that?
How about elapsed time from the time you start to the time you finish? Because I guess you've got drying layers and things.
Well, for that one, I had a student who had a neighbor who had a sister willing to pose for me. Wow. So she's actually standing at the bottom of my garden. And I went to the Oshawa Little Theater, and I borrowed a whole bunch of costumes, and she's wearing one of them, sans wings, of course. And so that, if you start there, it's probably a few months by the time I actually have that painting finished.
Wow. Cool. Okay, now on to your entry in the fiction category, Nailed, which is a short story that turns out to have quite a double meaning by the time you get to the end of it. There's a few clues along the way. I can't say much else without turning into a spoiler, but I'll ask, can we expect more stories of this, short stories of this nature from you, or a book? Or?
Sure. I like those kinds of, O. Henry's a favorite of mine, those sort of, I wasn't expecting that at the end. That particular story was inspired by that fable, for the want of an ale. For the want
Right.
of an ale, a horse was lost for the one, and it goes on and on. And I do have some short stories in the anthology, Spirit of the Hills anthologies. I'm working on another one now. And I have a book, The Painter's Craft. It's a mystery with a protagonist who is an artist. No big surprise there, I suppose. Who basically sort of coincidentally lives some of my life. And although I never had an art instructor who got murdered. And then I finished the second one. I haven't sought a publisher yet. I may go with the publisher for The Painter's Craft. I'm not sure. And I'm working on the third one, and at the same time working on a short story.
Busy, busy, busy.
Yes.
Well, that's it for my questions, and I'm going to wish you the best of luck in the competition. And again, thank you for your contributions to making it happen.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank
Perfect.
you.
You're welcome.